When UT opened its doors in 1883, biology was not part of the curriculum, despite that faculty at the time pushed for representation of botany and physiology. The new state university, organized in 1883, had more ambitions than resources, wrote geneticist and UT professor Clarence Paul Oliver in 1983. But in 1891, the Board of Regents voted the School of Biology into existence. 8 years later, in 1899, the School of Biology separated into the School of Botany and Animal Biology. They both moved from the basement of the old main building to a wing of the third floor of this building, which they shared with geology. 1899 was also the year which saw the arrival of William Morton Wheeler, an entomologist, professor, and myrmecologist. Wheeler would become a leading authority on the behaviors of social insects and was considered a taxonomist of the highest order. Two of Wheeler's works, Ants, Their Structure, Development, and Behavior in 1910, and Social Life Among the Insects of 1923, long served as standard references. Wheeler was head of the biology unit which became the School of Zoology in 1900, but his tenure at UT Austin was very short, only 1899 to 1903. These 4 years, however, marked the start of his focus on ants, an area in which he received particular renown. In 1900, the population of Austin was just over a mere 22,000 people. The surroundings we all recognize today as being dominated by new construction were then still relatively unexplored by scientists in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Texas was considered to be the northern limit of neotropical ants, but there wasn't much research being done on these species. That would change with Wheeler. In the centennial issue of UT's Discovery, Research, and Scholarship at the University of Texas at Austin, Clarence Paul Oliver shares some of Wheeler's stories about his time at UT. He states that in 1899, Wheeler had been disappointed at UT's scarcity of biological equipment and the library's still growing selection of journals. Apparently, Oliver humorously wrote, he needed solace, a place to meditate or suffer in silence. To do so, Wheeler would go to Barton Creek, which was nothing like it is now with its hip urban surroundings. It was during one of Wheeler's solo excursions here that his new research focus appeared. I happened to see a file of cutting ants, Atta texana, each with its piece of leaf poised in its mandible, Wheeler wrote in one of his many publications. I vividly remember the thrill of delightful fascination with which I watched the red-brown creatures trudging along under their green loads, and it seemed to me that I had at last found a group of organisms that would repay no end of study. Two of Wheeler's graduate students, Charles Thomas Bruce and Axel Melander, were also crucial in driving Wheeler's interest in ants, as they would often show him species of certain army ants and fire ants that he had never seen before. After Wheeler departed in 1903, Thomas Harrison Montgomery became the head of the School of Zoology until 1908. This year saw a turning point for the School of Zoology when two new instructors came on board who would shape the school for decades: John Thomas Patterson and Dana Brackenridge Castile. Patterson would become chairman of the department in 1911 and in 1920 would hire Herman Muller, a geneticist who studied the process and frequencies of mutations on the fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster. The period of gene mutation studied through Drosophila systematics will be the focus of our next video on the history of UT entomology.